Who the fuck are you?
Me? I'm nobody.
Nobody is a brand new 2021 action movie starring Bob Odenkirk and is about a sort of middle-aged family man who, after two criminals break into his house, unleashes maybe a past version of this person who he's sort of long forgotten. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a really intense sort of action movie in sort of the style of John Wick or The Equalizer, a similar sort of story like that, a very cliched action story. But this movie, in some ways, is unique and does have its own unique style to it. It is very short, only clocking in around 90 minutes, but it's able to pack a lot into that runtime, especially with a lot of great action sequences that are really skillfully handled by behind the camera, and also a really solid performance from Bob Odenkirk. So yeah, I really did enjoy this movie, and I definitely recommend it because even though it's a very basic action movie in its narrative, it's effective in nearly every single way in terms of setting up this character, in terms of setting up sort of the past of who this character is, setting up the daily repetitive life that this character lives, and then showing us maybe the life that he had before that, and sort of showing that this maybe man isn't sort of who he seems, this isn't this nobody who he seems to be. And I like that exploration of stories like that, and this one's done in a really good way, mainly due to Bob Odenkirk's performance. And even if the script doesn't give this character much chances to develop or emote, especially with his family aspect, Bob Odenkirk I think is a great actor. He's amazing in Breaking Bad. I've not yet seen his own TV show Better Call Saul. I really want to check that out though, but he's great as Saul in Breaking Bad, and it's great seeing him as an action star in this movie. And I wish he became an action star sooner because he's really good in the action sequences, and most of it looks very in camera. It doesn't look like he's got a stunt double for most of this. Most of this stuff looks like he did it himself. And the action sequences are very well handled. They're very well shot, they're very well edited. There's a lot of quick cut editing in terms of some montagey action sequences, but most of the action looks good. It's brutal, it's when it needs to be, but it also feels realistic where you feel the punches. Each character is choreographed in a way where it feels like it's a realistic fight scene, not a choreographed fight scene. They're done in really good ways, and the good thing about this movie is it built up a slow amount of tension at the start of the movie, some little hints, and it kept it surprising. In terms of my issues with the story, though, even though it is very well paced, even though there is a lot of good action, even though I really like this character, the family dynamic to me was a little bit lacking. There was definitely a good central core family aspect to this film, but to me it was a little bit lacking in that aspect. We didn't really learn too much about this character's backstory, but we learned enough to understand who he once was and who he is now. But I would have liked a bit more exploration of the story. There is not much exploration of the family beforehand. I think maybe because the movie's only around an hour and a half, it could have really benefited from being a bit longer to me and just sort of developing the characters, developing the story and world a little more. Maybe that can drag on the pace, make it feel less in the moment, but I think it could have benefited from something like that, just some added world building, letting us know what's happening. But to be honest, I wouldn't really mind a sequel that went into that. I do think the movie works fine on its own, definitely. Another surprising aspect was Christopher Lloyd coming in as Bob Odenkirk's character's father, and I really liked his character in the movie. That leads me to another issue is there's another character relating to his father that I won't spoil, but he's sort of hinted at early in the film, then he randomly pops in at the end, and you're sort of confused as to who he is, and his character's never really explained, and it just feels really unexplained, and that character could be removed from the movie, and I wouldn't even have this issue, and it wouldn't change anything about the film significantly at all. There's a lot of side characters as well in terms of relating to Bob Odenkirk's character's past that aren't really explored too much either, and the villains are all extremely weak. There's not much to the villains at all. They could have had something with the villains tying into his past, but they didn't really do much with the villains, and they're very weak to me. And I think if the movie had a stronger antagonist and stronger characters surrounding him, and they did more with the family dynamic, I would have appreciated the main character himself, because the main character, I think, is great, but everyone around him is very mediocre and didn't really have much to do. What I really loved about this movie, though, was the action, the Bob Odenkirk's commitment to the role, some of the editing choices, the stylistic of the action sequences, the use of its soundtrack was done really well. There's a lot of really bombastically good music around the action sequences. Some of it felt a little out of place, but it really got my blood pumping and it really worked. It was intense, it was fast moving, and even though it's like many things we've seen before, it does have a unique style, and again, lands what it needs to do very well. It's a great movie. I really enjoyed watching it. Again, it doesn't really hit the marks or hit the heights of some other films like it, but it does its job, and Bob Odenkirk really saves a lot of this movie, and along with the great action sequences, and a simple yet effective and intense narrative. I'm going to give Nobody a B. I'm also going to give this movie a 74%. Let me know what you thought of this movie down below, and if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. I think it's a good time. And of course, thanks for watching, and goodbye.
It's been a hell of a day.